Michigan, a land surrounded by water, scarred by industry, and steeped in secrets. It is a place where nature is both beautiful and brutal, where the forests whisper old names, and where things sometimes crawl out of the lakes, never to return. This episode, we dive deep into 3 chilling legends rooted in Michigan folklore. A towering wolf-like beast that's been stalking the northern woods for centuries. An asylum with a past so grim, its spirits still cry out from the walls. And a remote island in Lake Michigan, where the dead never rest, and the forest still burns with memories of a witch. So, dim the lights, settle in, and remember, not everything that goes into the water returns. I'm Drifter Voyages, and this is the 50th Room Podcast.
Where the lighthouse fades in the lake Huron mist, and the shore sings low like a serpent's hiss. There's a tale in the waves, and it never sleeps. A voice from the deep where the cold runs steep. The freighters groan with phantom weight, lost to storms, now bound by fate. The Edmunds bells still echo wide, and lanterns glow where sailors died. Great Lakes dread in the water and wind. The stories don't start, and they never quite end. Something waits where the compass spins, a chill in the bones, a price for sins. Michigan hides what the daylight forgets in haunted waves and ghost-walked.
Reed City, Michigan, spring of 1987. A hunter, alone in the Manistee National Forest, stood motionless in the hush of twilight. He wasn't new to this land. He knew its sounds. He knew its silence. But that evening, the forest felt different, still, tense, almost expectant. Then, something emerged. Not from the sky, not from a dream, but from the undergrowth. It stood about 7 feet tall, its shoulders unnaturally broad beneath coarse, dark fur. A face, like a twisted shepherd dog, familiar, yet wrong. Eyes piercing, frozen blue, as if something ancient had looked back at him from behind glass. The hunter never raised his rifle. He couldn't. The creature didn't charge. It just watched. And then, without a sound, it moved, not crashing through the brush, but gliding. Though the term dogman didn't enter local vocabulary until decades later, the creature's presence reaches much further back. In fact, the first known report comes from 1887 in Wexford County. 2 lumberjacks, exhausted from a day of felling trees, described seeing a man with a dog's head standing just beyond the clearing. They said it didn't move, it only watched, and when they looked again, it was gone. For nearly a century, sightings have emerged in strange, rhythmic waves. Almost like a cycle, roughly every 10 years, reports surge across Michigan, Cadillac, Reed City, the shadowed sprawl of the Manistee Forest. Descriptions vary, but not by much. A bipedal beast, 7 feet tall, a howl like twisted metal, eyes like coals or ice, in speed unnatural, and we can't forget the watching from a distance. But long before European settlers arrived, the forests of Michigan had stories of their own. The Ottawa and Ojibwe peoples spoke of shapeshifters, beings who could blur the line between man and animal. Not evil, necessarily, but powerful. Sometimes protectors, and sometimes punishers. These beings, known in various traditions as Limerican or Wetiko, were not simply creatures, they were consequences. In that light, the dogman becomes something more than a monster. It becomes a warning, a spirit rooted in land and memory, a guardian of boundaries, or a reminder of what happens when they're crossed. In the 1970s, a trucker, we'll call him Bill, was driving a dark highway outside Grayling. A creature darted across the road on two legs, covered in fur, snout long, jaws parted, but it didn't snarl, it smiled. Years later, Carla, a mother of two, checked her barn camera after noticing livestock's skittishness. The footage showed glowing eyes, intelligent, pacing, and for 12 seconds, the feed went to static. When the feed returned, her barn door was open, but nothing else was touched. In 1995, a group of teens camping near the Manistee River found deep claw marks etched into the pine trees, 8 feet from the ground. The campers had been sleeping just 10 feet away. What exactly is the Dogman? That depends on who you ask. To cryptid enthusiasts, it's a relic, something that survived when it shouldn't have. To paranormal theorists, it's a tulpa, a thought form given flesh by collective belief. Others still suggest something stranger, possibly a government experiment, a spirit twisted by grief, or a biological anomaly waiting to be named. Skeptics, of course, are quick with rationality. Bears with mange, wolves on hind legs, human error under stress. But even they struggle to explain the consistency of reports across decades, counties, and cultures. In 1987, radio DJ Steve Cook recorded a novelty song called The Legend, a tongue-in-cheek ballad about a creature called the Dogman. It aired as an April Fool's Day stunt, but the calls started almost immediately. Listeners weren't laughing, they were agreeing. They'd seen it too. The song, meant to entertain, became a match, and it lit something dormant. In 2006, a team of seasoned paranormal investigators entered a patch of woods near Baldwin. They brought thermal imaging, parabolic mics, and directional audio gear. At 2:11 a.m., the forest responded. A howl, not like any animal in North America, broke the silence. Too low for a coyote, too raw for a wolf, and too long to be anything natural. The lead investigator, a former wildlife biologist, left the field shortly after. When asked why, he simply said, "Some things don't want to be found." Maybe the Dogman is just a legend, a shape we give to the fear of the unknown. But maybe it's older than us, a watcher in the trees, a reminder that the wilderness isn't empty, it's just waiting. So if you're walking a back road in Michigan and you hear twigs cracking behind you, just listen and hope it doesn't listen back. Some things stalk the woods, but some never had a choice. They were locked away until they couldn't be forgotten any longer. Now, we turn to a place built to heal, but it only knew how to hold pain.
Calls out to ships like sirens do. They say she burned but never died. Now the fog rolls in and the boats collide. From Copper Harbor to Saginaw Bay, the water keeps but won't decay. A whisper rides the storm's first thread. They call it lore, but it walks like dread.
West of Detroit lies a complex of crumbling brick, broken windows, and silence that stretches a little too long. It's called Eloise, once a place of healing, or at least that was the idea. It became something else entirely. A poorhouse, an asylum, a hospital with a history stained by sorrow, shadows, and screams that never fully stopped. At its peak, Eloise Asylum was a city within a city, nearly 900 acres wide, 78 buildings, a post office, a power plant, its own police and fire department. By 1930, over 10,000 patients filled its beds. And still, it wasn't enough. Because at Eloise, people didn't just disappear into the system. They disappeared entirely. We begin not in newspaper, but in memory. Sarah Whitlock grew up in the 1960s. Her mother, Delia, was a nurse at Eloise for 14 years. Sarah remembers waking up one night to find her mother standing in the kitchen, frozen, staring out the window, whispering to no one in particular.
She never stopped screaming, even when they tied her down.
Sarah's mother called her the Screamer in Ward 8. Delia would never speak of her again, but Eloise never stopped whispering. Eloise began in 1839 as a humble poorhouse. Just 35 residents. But as Detroit grew, so did the need for care or confine the broken, the poor, and the unwanted. By the early 20th century, it had morphed into a psychiatric hospital, housing patients from across Michigan. But resources didn't grow with the demand. Doctors were overworked, orderlies untrained, and treatment, that was relative. Lobotomies, insulin shock therapy, electroconvulsive treatments performed in mass, sometimes up to a dozen patients in a day, strapped down, convulsing, and silent after. Outside, the ground stretched green. Inside, some rooms had more restraint straps than pillows. Unmarked graves filled the back lots. Numbered markers, no names, just rows and rows of anonymous endings. Then there are the tunnels, underground corridors that once connected the buildings, used for transporting patients, laundry, and supplies, or so the records say. But if you ask former staff, a darker use lingers beneath the surface. In the 1950s, several orderlies claimed these tunnels became holding pens, places to stash patients considered too violent or too far gone. Some were never brought back up. Today, the tunnels remain, barely, collapsed in places, flooded in others. Yet people still report footsteps echoing through them, even when the tunnels are sealed. And then there's the smell, antiseptic and something else. Burnt hair and ozone, a scent that sticks. The paranormal stories began almost as soon as the buildings emptied. Lights flicker when names are spoken aloud. Footsteps echo down hallways that haven't seen feet in decades. Gurneys roll on their own. And the elevator in Building D, long disabled, dings at midnight, every night. One EVP, captured in the old hydrotherapy wing, simply said, "Don't cut me." A woman's voice, barely audible, but sounding so desperate. In 2011, a paranormal team from Lansing entered the abandoned kitchen ward to conduct a spirit box session. About 45 minutes in, the lead investigator began mumbling, incoherent, agitated. Then he collapsed, no cause ever found. When they reviewed the audio from that moment, there was a burst of static, followed by something clear.
You don't belong here.
Urban explorers have added their own stories. One team captured a photograph inside Building 3, a window reflecting the silhouettes of a woman in a hospital gown. But no one was standing there. And more chilling, that window had been boarded up for years. And then there's the phantom room. A door some swear they've seen, just off the east hallway near Ward C, that leads to a patient's room, not found on any blueprint. Some have opened it. Some say they walked inside, but it's never there the second time. Eloise isn't alone. Michigan is dotted with ruins of similar facilities. You have Northville State, or even Traverse City Hospital, each with its own tales of mistreatment, experimentation, and regret. But Eloise is different, because it wasn't just a hospital, it was a world. Some buildings decay, some histories fade. Places like Eloise, they absorb the pain, They remember the names, even the ones no one else does. So if you ever find yourself on Michigan Avenue and you hear a gurney rolling behind you and even smell the sting of antiseptic in the wind, don't turn around, because some patients were never discharged and some places never forget.
Great Lakes dread in the water and wind. The stories don't start and they never quite end.
Michigan's haunted woods and broken halls are chilling, but there's something deeply different about islands. Out on Lake Michigan lies a place where the dead are said to slumber under sand dunes, and a witch's revenge may still burn beneath the soil.
See a hand reach out when rescue won't come. Tracks by the cabin, 6 toes wide. But no one was there, no one alive.
Off the northwest coast of Michigan's Lower Peninsula lies a sliver of land adrift in time, the South Manitou Island. To the summer ferry crowd, it's a quiet retreat, part of Sleeping Bear Dunes National Lakeshore. But the island has another name, a name rarely spoken above a whisper: the Isle of the Witch. For nearly 2 centuries, stories have surrounded this place. Not just shipwrecks and storms, but something older, darker, and angry. A legend of a woman wronged and a village doomed. A spirit said to rise when the waters calm and the fires return. South Manitou Island was first settled in the 1830s by a handful of logging families and farmers. Its location, midway between Chicago and the Straits of Mackinac, made it a key refueling station for steamships. By the 1840s, a small village had formed. Close your eyes and picture this with me: a general store, a church, a cemetery, and silence. But the island didn't grow. It withered. In 1845, a plague swept the settlement, killing nearly half the population in under 3 weeks. The survivors blamed one woman. Her name was never officially recorded, at least not under her own, but the settlers called her the Widow. She was said to be Hungarian or maybe French. Hard to say, even then. She arrived alone, carried herbs, spoke to trees, and spoke to the lake. When the children began to die one by one, she offered cures, tinctures, powders, chants, and when they all failed, the villagers turned on her. They dragged her to a barn and locked the doors. They lit it from 4 corners, and they said her screams echoed for minutes. But when the flames died, no bones were found, just ash and a circle of blackened ground that never grew back. Within weeks, something changed. Despite calm skies, ships began to founder near the island. Boats struck unseen rocks. Fog rolled in from nowhere. A steamer crew claimed to see a woman in white, wading into the water, arms raised, eyes gone white, calling something out of the fog. In the decades that followed, over 50 vessels sank near South Manitou. Lighthouse keepers reported lights on the shore where no people lived. And in one entry, dated August 2nd, 1866, read this:
Fire lit in the western tree line. No explanation. Fog came hard and fast. Bell rang 3 times. No one at the tower door.
Today, South Manitou is empty. No permanent residents, no stores. Just ruins, a graveyard, and the occasional camper. Hikers speak of voices that whisper their names just past the edge of the trail. Never quite heard. Never too close. A group of students on a school trip in 2009 swore they saw glowing footprints in the sand. They led to the woods, but didn't come back out. A kayaker, who who wanted to stay anonymous, sent an email to the National Park Service. He said he paddled too close to the northern shore one night, and he saw her, a woman engulfed in flames, standing still as stone at the tree line. When he blinked, she vanished. There was no smoke, no heat, but the smell of burnt cedar hung in the air for hours. The lighthouse keepers, too, kept their secrets. One spoke of a phantom door in the basement, a door that wasn't always there, that opened to blackness. He quit after a year, never to return. Maintenance crews report tools going missing, then reappearing in perfect circles, batteries drained without reason. And more than one ranger has reported equipment failing the moment they step near the island cemetery, where over 300 souls are buried. Most of them plague victims, many of them unnamed. The tale of the widow isn't isolated. In Romanian folklore, a baba, an old woman who lived on the edge of the village, was both a healer and also feared. In Celtic traditions, the bean sith, or banshee, is tied to water, kneeling before death. And in the Great Lakes indigenous traditions, meme gisiwa, small forest spirits, were said to appear as voices in the fog, luring travelers away. South Manitou's legend weaves all this together. A woman both protector and cursed, a storm caller, a shadow. In 2017, a letter arrived anonymously at the Sleeping Bear Dunes Visitor Center. Typed, no return address. It read,
You don't understand. She wasn't a witch. She was betrayed. She tried to save them. They burned her anyway. The island remembers. I saw her. She's still here, under the sand, waiting, in fire.
Some legends linger on the page, others linger in the air. So if you ever camp in South Manitou Island, if the night is clear and still, if the waves go quiet, and you smell cedar smoke with no fire in sight, don't follow it. Don't answer the voices, and don't, under any circumstance, walk towards the water.
The water keeps but won't decay. A whisper rides the storm's first thread. They call it lore, but it walks like dread. Great Lakes dread.
And there you have it, 3 supposedly true scary tales from Michigan. From the deep forests of the north, to the long echoed halls of Eloise, to the quiet graves beneath the dunes. Michigan is more than just a state. It is a memory. And some memories, they never want to be forgotten. Thank you for listening to this episode of The 50th Room. If these stories move something inside of you, or outside of you, consider subscribing on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and YouTube. Please, if you have a tale of your own, send it in. I love reading your stories. Don't forget to leave a review. It helps more than you know. Stay cautious, stay curious, and remember, sometimes what rises from the water is not necessarily what went in.
Great Lakes dread, it drags you down with rusted chains and a mariner's frown. The ghosts don't scream, they sing instead. Lullabies for the long since dead. Michigan knows what lives in the wet, and she won't let you forget. So walk the dunes and sail the blue. But if you hear your name, it's not calling.